Oh, what? Oh, right, the show. Oh, sorry, I dozed off there. Oh, man. Guys, I had the weirdest dream. I, I was a film critic, and someone remade Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was, oh, man, it was awful, and... Back in the old days, when the mighty mastodon roamed the earth and all movies were made by a handful of studios in Hollywood, before the movie started, you'd see maybe one logo. Today, you usually see a whole bunch of them. You ever wonder why that is? Well, all those different names and logos are smaller production companies, usually run by individual filmmakers or actors to develop products they'd personally like to get made. For example, Disney released the first two Narnia movies, but the rights, and a lot of the money, came from Walden Media, a production company dedicated to making positive family films out of old kids' books. The new remake of Nightmare on Elm Street actually has two production companies, New Line Cinema, aka the genre film subsidiary of Warner Brothers, and an outfit called Platinum Dunes. Who are they? Platinum Dunes is a company chiefly devoted to remaking classic horror movies, notably run by Michael Bay. That's right, your keywords here are remake and Michael Bay. To date, Platinum Dunes has been guilty of remaking the Amityville Horror, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Hitcher, and Friday the 13th. And they all sucked. In other words, Platinum Dunes' logo might as well be a giant blinking sign warning you that you're about to waste your money. But you know what can be really frustrating? When a crappy movie like this one, and boy is this a crappy movie, makes one really, really good decision and it ultimately gets dragged down with the rest of it. So, before we go any further, let's give Platinum Dunes some credit for one good decision, hiring Jackie Earle Haley to be the new Freddy Kreuger. Haley is in the middle of one of the all-time second wind career boosts. He virtually disappeared after having been one of the most visible young actors of the 70s and 80s. Almost out of nowhere, he came back in a huge way with show-stealing roles in All the King's Men, Little Children, and, of course, Watchmen. Great actor, cool guy, deserves all he's getting and more. And you know what? He makes a pretty good Freddy, despite the movie giving him absolutely nothing interesting to do. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take Mr. Haley and put him in a nice protective bubble. And I'm going to put that bubble right up over here, safe and exempt from all the bad news I've got to deliver about this crummy movie. He's exempt. Mr. Haley, you were good. Nothing I have to say in this movie reflects badly on you, because you're in your bubble. Okay? Okay. Alright, so for those of you who either didn't see or don't remember the original movies, Nightmare on Elm Street is about a suburb full of kids who are all having bad dreams about a razor-fingered boogeyman named Freddy Kreuger, a suspected child killer who was burned to death by the kids' parents in an act of vigilante justice. The big hook is that if Freddy kills you in your dream, you die for real, and since no one can stay awake forever, you get the idea. Since they can't rely on a who is the guy with the hand storyline now that there's been 8 of these movies and everyone knows who Freddy Kreuger is, the new one changes up the story a little. Now, Freddy was burned for molesting kids instead of killing them, and the now teenaged victims, who've conveniently repressed the entire experience, have to solve the mystery of whether or not they imagined the original crimes. In other words, maybe Freddy was innocent and that's why he's back for revenge. Huh. You know, that could actually be interesting. But it isn't, and in fact they kind of cop out on the whole angle completely. There's another new gimmick called micronaps, basically sleep-deprived characters having tiny, bite-sized dreams while they're walking around. It sounds like a clever idea, but you can tell pretty soon that it's only there so they have an excuse for Freddy to pop out whenever the hell they want, so they don't have to bother setting up dream scenes. That's probably for the best, because they can't think of a damn thing to do with the dream scenes when they get there. They restage a couple of gags from the original, but for the most part, all Freddy does is stab people in the gut. Seriously, I'm pretty sure about 4 people in this movie all get it exactly the same way. Even in the bad Nightmare sequels, you could at least count on creative kills. But not here. You gotta sympathize with Haley. Here he is working his ass off giving Freddy this great voice and real physical presence, and they won't give him anything interesting to say or do. So, Freddy isn't interesting or scary, the kids are all empty ciphers you're not gonna care about, and the gore, don't make me laugh. Mortal Kombat on the SNES had more blood than this does. And since Freddy's Revenge still exists, this can't technically be the worst Nightmare movie, but it's right down there. Seriously, there is no reason for any of you to go see this movie. Don't bother. You know, Mr. Bay, Michael, I know you only produced this, but after ruining Freddy in Transformers and all the other horror remakes at Dunes, could you maybe please leave stuff I like alone for a while? At least change it up a little, you know? Go ruin something I don't give a damn about. Like, go do a Halo movie. Yeah, you know what? I think you two would go great together.
Yeah, here's another one I was bang on about. This really sucked. The only reason I think that we don't think about how much this sucks anymore is that there are so many better Nightmare on Elm Street movies that I can't remember the last time I even heard anyone mention this. You know, when it's talked up about whether or not, should we make another Nightmare on Elm Street movie, no one ever asks whether they should bring back Jackie Earle Haley. Nobody ever asks whether they should do a sequel to this one. It's always, is Robert Englund too old to come back as Freddy? Should we continue the continuity of the previous ones? It's as though this never happened, which is wild to think about when you're talking about as iconic a character as Freddy Kreuger and as iconic as this franchise is. This really did seem to open and shut very quickly. I mean, people still talk about the remake of Friday the 13th, which I feel is just as bad as this, but maybe in a more but also less forgettable way. It really feels like people just want to forget that anyone even attempted this.